Greetings and welcome to PinballHelp. Work continues on this Williams Flash pinball machine. I'll get you up to speed with what's been going on. As I've been refurbishing the machine, there have been a couple little glitches here and there, and I want to go over what I've done to fix them. I had two main things that were wrong in the playfield. First off, this 3-drop target bank would not reset. I couldn't figure out, but we were able to test in an earlier video that the coil did fire. Same thing with this left slingshot, which they call in the manual the kicker. This wouldn't fire. See over here, it fires. This one doesn't. So, still trying to diagnose all the problems. I was able to fix this drop target thing by tracing, pulling out the schematics like this, and identifying which coil driver on the driver board it was. So I identified the number of the coil for this, and I traced it to coil number 5 up here, or actually number 6, this one right here. And so I pulled this driver transistor and the pre-transistor right there, and I replaced them. And you can see in the board, they look a little bit newer. You can see it's a little shinier sticking out. You see that one right there? That's the one I replaced. I also identified the same driver transistor and pre-transistor driver for the left slingshot, which is this guy right up here. And I went ahead and I replaced this. It was a tip 120 transistor, and I replaced it with a tip 102, which is recommended. And I also replaced a little pre-driver transistor above it. So those two are new too. So I replaced both of those, and I got the 3-bank drop target working, but the kicker still isn't working. Now, everything seems to be working in the game now except for this kicker. It doesn't seem to work. So I put the game in switch test, and the switch doesn't register as well. Now, what's different about these kickers is that they're on a special solenoid circuit, not the regular solenoids, which are 1 through 15. There's these 6 extra special ones up at the top that have some facilities to bypass the CPU for very fast actions like the slingshots. So there's a little bit of a different signal path for these. And on the schematics, they're labeled 1 to 5, but in the game, they're labeled 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. So you've got to kind of do a little bit of translating to figure out which one goes where. But I figured out that this is special solenoid number 5, and it's identified in the manual as game solenoid 21. And then I made a bunch of notes down here on what the solenoids were. See, so the 3-bank reset was this one here, and then the special one right down here, solenoid 21. So I've replaced the driver transistors, and this one's still not working. So now I'm trying to scare out whether there's a switch problem with the switch matrix or something. So what you do here is the first order of business is to find out where the problem is. Is the problem on the playfield, or is it up there on the driver board? So how you do that is you pull these 2 connectors off. On the upper right side of the driver board, this is where your switch matrix is coming in. One connector is sending out the signals, and the other one is receiving them, and it's like rows and columns. So what you do is you pull both of the rows and columns off, and then you take a jumper like this, and you put the game in switch test. You do that until there's a 03 here on the display. And when it's in switch test, it'll have a 03 here, and then this right here will tell you the switch number of the last switch that was done. So we know that from looking up in the schematics, I can tell what the switch matrices are. So I've got it connected to I don't have the actual rows and columns in front of me, but you could look at that. I've got it connected into column 3, and now I'm going through the rows here. So when I touch, so you basically, you take one of these pins and then you touch it to one of the bottom connector pins, and that's like setting a switch off. So I will touch this to that, and then I'll go over here and see that is switch 47. So we know that the CPU sends switch 47. So I will go down and touch a lower one, and that's switch 45, 46, 45. So I know that pin 3, this goes 46, 45, 44, 43, 42, 41. So I know this last one down here is 41. 41 corresponds to the left pop bumper. We can test the second last one right there. I'll touch it. I'll go over here, switch 43. Okay. Let's touch the one below that. Switch 42. So the very last pin should be switch 41. That is our left slingshot switch. So we're going to touch that and then go over here, and it says switch 41. So this tells me there are no switch matrix problems relating to that switch on the driver board. The driver board is not the problem. So I have a problem somewhere in the wiring of the play field. So now I know I don't have to mess around up in here. I've got a problem. It could possibly be the wiring right here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check this connection right here. I know this is pin 9 on this connector, so I know it's these last 2 wires. So I'm going to check continuity between this and down here to the switch. But I'm first just going to check this connector, because connectors are often the common problem. And I'll take a good look at it, see if there's any kind of problem there. I can always repin that last little connector. So I've traced the problem to the play field. I think I may have fixed everything on the driver board. So yeah, I'm making progress. It's good to be able to kind of isolate things. So now I don't have to mess around in here anymore. I think I've got just about everything on the boards working. So my next order of business will be to put this back together and take a look at the playfield and take a good look at this switch assembly down here that's hooked up to this, and see if there's some kind of problem or there's a broken wire somewhere that I didn't see. So I will take a good look and follow that, and I'll look in the schematics for what the color code is. But I can see here it's a white wire with a brown stripe on it. So I will look down underneath there and see if I find that wire and see if I notice anything wrong with it. And maybe I'll identify the problem visually, fix it, and then the game should be back working 100%. So stay tuned, and we will see how the progress goes. But for testing switch matrix problems on System 3 games and later systems up to System 7s and stuff like that, and 11, you can do this. You can pull these the switch matrix things off, and you can kind of do some testing. Obviously, whenever you're doing this with the game on, you want to be really careful with these alligator clips and not touching the wrong thing. But that's one way of doing some quick tests to see whether or not there's a problem. Had there been a problem, had I touched this pin down here to this one and it didn't register the switch, that tells me that there's something wrong on the driver board. Now, depending upon what row and column it is, it's going to be one of these 4 chips here. You see these 4 chips. These bottom 2 handle rows and the top 2 handle columns. So if you identify a whole bunch of stuff that's out, then you can start kind of fiddling around in there, possibly replacing some integrated circuits. Again, this is a pretty advanced thing to do, so if you're not comfortable with it, you can send the board off to be repaired, but at least it's kind of rewarding to be able to dig in and find out specifically where the problems are. So I know that we had to do some work on this board and replace some of those driver transistors, because that got some stuff working. So I'm slowly ironing things out. I still am not sure what if it's just a switch problem that's keeping this coil from firing too, but I'll find out. So I know the next step is to follow that wire and see where there's a problem. So stay tuned. I'll give you an update. And thanks for watching. For more, visit pinballhelp.com. Catch you later.